You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show.
The 70% of people out there listening to the show today are going to need some level of care. It doesn't necessarily mean that 70% are going to end up in a nursing home, but 70% of people will need some assistance out there. The biggest fear is running out of money for the retiree, but what we see is not enough people spend enough of their money.
Cris prides himself in what matters to you. This is the Rite Retirement Show.
Hi there, I'm Louann Fulmar, and you've tuned into the Rite Retirement Show. Today, with us showing lots of retirement wisdom is certified financial planner, financial advisor Cris Wallace. He's president of WG Financial Group. And then another person that joins us every single week, Graham Bauer. He's also a certified financial planner, financial advisor, enrolled agent at WG Financial Group. So these guys are here to help you have that retirement that you dream of. We want to make sure that you are living your best life in retirement. So if you have questions, here's the phone number so you can get some answers, okay? Call or text the word visit, 256-937-2010, 256-937-2010. Guys, it's a complimentary discovery session to get you on the road to a retirement plan. And remember that we are on Facebook. Cris is on Facebook throughout the week. So if anything happens with retirement, any news situations, he is going to update it. So just search for the name of the company, WG Financial Group 256 on Facebook. And then remember, WGFinancialGroup.com is our website, but you can also catch this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Okay. So all that said, so excited to get back with you guys. We're starting a new year. Happy New Year to both of you, Cris and Graham. So excited to be here.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well, Louann.
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
It feels like it's been a long time. We were just talking about that pre-show, and I guess it kind of has. I was looking at it, and it's been just shy of a month.
Oh, my gosh.
Since we recorded?
Yeah, December 9th, and it's January 6th.
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
We took a long break, didn't we?
We did. What did you guys end up doing over the holidays, Louann?
So we really didn't we were just together as a family, minus my son in Grand Rapids. Didn't get to see him this Christmas season, but we were with my daughter Haley and her family. They live right here with me in the same town. And church, Christmas Eve service, dinner, nice dinner at their house Christmas Eve. Went back over Christmas morning, watched the little grandkids open their presents with the other in-laws. We're all really close. And so we just had a blast and just hung out all day. And then New Year's, my husband was sick, so nothing for New Year's. Went to bed early.
What time? So Christmas Eve service. Let's talk about that for a quick second. What time did you guys go to Christmas
We
Eve
have
service?
5 services at our church that you can go to. Yeah.
5.
11, 1, 3, 11, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And we went to the 11 o'clock one.
What about you, Graham?
We only had one, and it was 5 p.m., I think.
Aw.
5 p.m. Okay.
What about you?
So Louann, we have like you, we have 4 to 5 services.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how many, but we went to 2:30.
Yeah.
And so as you remember, it was incredibly warm, incredibly warm for Christmas Eve. And then we're going to church service and it's like sunny daylight outside. And it just felt weird.
I know.
But we did it so that we could, go to church and then go home and then cook dinner.
Yes.
We had dinner kind of prepped and ready to go.
Have a really nice Christmas Eve dinner.
Yeah, but after we did that, my wife and I just kind of talked about it. It just kind of felt weird. So I don't know that we'll do I called it the brunch service. Service, even though it wasn't really brunch, but it just felt different to go to. I don't know. It's just, we won't do it again next year, I don't think. And I hope it's a little bit colder because when it's like 65 to 70 degrees outside,
it's weird.
It was hot. Yeah.
It's
When
weird.
we got in the car to go over to my family's and Emma's family, it filled me with a little bit of rage to feel that high humidity heat on Christmas. I was like, this doesn't feel like Christmas. It feels like May.
You got to turn on the AC,
Yeah.
So you guys didn't do a whole lot. We didn't either. All of my family was together. So, all the kids were at home.
Good.
Jennifer and I ended up watching a lot of Netflix over the holidays. That seems to be something I don't know. It just seems to be something that we do over the holidays. Because I don't watch a lot of TV outside of some sports stuff on the weekends during the year. But we ended up watching 3 different things. And including college football as well. And a little NFL is also. Sad day on the football side for us because Jen is an Ohio State fan.
Oh,
So they were beat out by Miami. They were, beat pretty badly.
oh.
And then, of course, people know I'm a Vikings fan, so it's been a sad year for us. But we watched Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
The last episodes of Stranger Things. I thought that was pretty good. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a sci-fi guy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think I've said this before. Stranger Things is like Goonies was for me in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so it kind of has that nostalgic feel to it. And so we did watch that. We watched another Netflix series called Untamed.
Ooh.
I thought was really good.
Untamed.
And then we saw one that was a little bit intense called The Beast in Me. And
we saw that one.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
The neighbor, right? The next neighbor. Yeah.
Right. We don't want to say a whole lot because
that's good.
Did you guys just spoil the show there?
No,
it's the name of the show.
That's the name of the show.
And the previews show it. It's okay. Yeah.
Right. It's about a writer, and there's a neighbor who is not a very good person. And I'll just kind of say that. And it's good. It's worth it. It definitely is intense. But it's good.
Yeah, it was good. And honestly, I thought it was a very generous portrayal of faith in the Hollywood space. I kept waiting for the kind of gotcha moment, and it never came. So
I'm with you, Graham.
But I enjoy all those movies. They're really fun, like murder mystery, kind of detective, very, kind of obviously following a formula, but they do it really well.
Yeah.
We do end up doing the same thing though around Christmas time. It seems like every year it's like Emma got sick this year. I got sick last year. And so we do end up at some point between Christmas and New Year's kind of cooped up, just watching like everything that we missed the past year. And I kind of look forward to it if I'm not the one that's
exactly.
If I am, then I could do without it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to be sick. But everybody seems to get sick over the holidays. But, Bobby works at our church. So there he was shaking hands with everybody Christmas Eve. And about 3 days later, he got sick.
Do you really think you get sick from shaking hands?
I think you can. You should have heard all the people coughing and hacking in the Christmas Eve service.
Right.
I don't know.
We won't go down that rabbit hole about shaking hands.
Yeah.
But anyway, so some good Netflix series out there if you want to watch it. I'll just give you a whole bunch. So you come to the show, you get financial advice.
See?
You get, a good retirement planning advice, and you also get some Netflix shows you can watch as well. So let's hop into the stuff we're going to talk about this year, today rather, that is about this year. So we wanted to kind of gear the show towards, hey, here's some things that you should be looking at right in the new year. Yeah. And so Louann, I know you've got some bullet points, Graham, you've got them up. And so, let's
brand new year. Okay. So I think a lot of people are asking, what actually changed for retirement contributions for 2026?
Yeah, so we'll hop into that. So let's just talk about the company-sponsored plans for a minute. So 401ks, 403bs, 457s, TSP, things like that. The base contribution limit that you can put in for 2026 is $24,500 a year. So anybody less than the age of 50, so 49 or below, you can put in $24,500. When you hit the age of 50, so in the year that you're turning 50. So for example, if you're listening to the show right now and you're 49 years old, but you'll be 50 by the end of the year, then you can also do an additional $8,000 of catch up. And so what that does is that takes your total contribution that you're eligible for you to put in at $32,500 a year. So it's a pretty good jump there.
That's nice.
Yeah. And if you're listening and you are going to be 60 this year, so again, same scenario, you're 59 today, but you're going to be 60 by the end of the year, then you can do what's called super catch up, and that's $11,250. So you can't do the $8,000 plus the $11,250. Your catch up contribution that you can put in is $11,250. Now, that did not change from last year. That stayed the same. But the total that you can put in, if you're age 60 to 63, then that number is $35,750. So in order to be able to do the catch up, the super catch up, you have to be between the ages of 60 and 63. So I said, if you're listening and you're going to be 59, you're 59 today, but you're going to be 60 by the end of the year, then you can do that super catch up. The same would go to if you're 63 today, but going to be 64 by the end of the year, then you cannot do that super catch up.
Wow, that's very good information. Now, so if someone is in their peak earning years right now, getting up there in their 50s, how big of an opportunity is this? And then for pre-retirees in their 50s or early 60s, what do they need to be paying attention to?
Well, I think what we need to do or need to be paying attention to is these contribution limits. And there'll be some people listening to the show that they'll forget to change the contribution limit. So you'll end up falling a little bit short. So these qualified retirement plans that we're talking about today, you can put in a lot of money into them. And so we think, and we feel like that everybody out there that's planning on retiring, which is everybody listening to the show more than likely, should be putting in as much as they can. So you want to take advantage of all of those available contribution limits. And I'll let Graham chime in here if he has anything additional he wants to add on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like you alluded to, Louann, one thing that I'll tell people a lot is the most meaningful years to save for retirement are as early as you possibly can because of compounding interest long term. Of course. But for most people, the most savings that they do dollar amount wise happens within the last 5 to 10, sometimes 15 years of retirement. Mm-hmm. Really just for the reasons that you kind of cited, you're near those peak earning years or at them. So you're making more money than you have. There's a good chance the kids are out of the house at this point. Mm-hmm. If you had kids, maybe if you were a single income household, maybe you're a dual income household now if there's, you don't have a stay-at-home parent anymore. So there's a lot of factors that can lead to that. And so as those contribution limits rise, so does typically your ability to actually save. So, I think it's a big opportunity to take advantage of. One thing we've mentioned a lot, and I'm sure we're getting to that if we haven't yet, is that with these catch-ups in 2026, if you're making over $145,000, that has to go in as Roth. So if you're, over 50, if you're between 60 and 63, and you're thinking about doing this catch up, you're saying, that's great. I can bring my income down even a little bit more. If you make $220,000 a year, if that's your salary, you actually can't. You're going to have to put that in as Roth. So you can still put it in. It's just going to have to go in as Roth. So that honestly, I don't think is going to have a big effect on people who weren't doing the catch up already. Right. So if you were just doing, a couple percent and now you're like, hey, maybe I'll max it out and do the catch up. That's not going to really change your tax situation because it's not like you were putting money in pre-tax that now has to go in Roth. But if you were, let's say you're 55 years old today, you make $175,000 a year, and you've been maxing out your 401k with catch-up. You put $31,000 in last year. Well, this year, you can put $3,250, but $8,000 of that's going to have to go in Roth. So that's going to be, another $8,000 compared to last year, I guess more like $7,000, that $7,500 that's going to have to be taxed that wouldn't have been taxed last year. So just also good to make sure that, your withholdings are going to be correct and you're not going to get hit with a couple $1,000 tax bill. Because if you're up in the 22 to 24%, that could be a few $1,000s that you weren't expecting to be on your taxes that won't show up when you file this year, but next year when you file for 2026 is when those will show up. So that's just something to be aware of as well.
Yeah, that's good to bring that up again, Graham. I know that we talked a lot about that in November of last year because it's been since November since we really recorded, or first part of December rather. Just did some quick numbers here. So if you're in that category that you're talking about, making more than $145,000 a year, and your catch up, you're in the super catch up, and it has to go in as Roth, $11,250 creates a $2,475 negative tax hit to the individuals if they're not expecting it. Kind of like you noted that you're not really going to know this until you do your taxes next year, and it's going to be, hey, wait a minute, why did I owe taxes? So that catch up going in as Roth for that individual would create that $2,475 federal tax obligation there. To offset that, and we talked about this last year, especially during open enrollment, those who were listening to us and decided to explore the high deductible health plan and being able to pair that with an HSA, those that are 55 and older can, and notice I said 55. I want to make sure that's clear. With IRAs and 401ks, the catch up starts at age 50. And of course, you have the super catch up at age 60, but the HSA, you can't put the extra $1,000 in until you hit age 55. So continuing on with this example, if you were age 55 or older and you were able to max out the HSA at $97.50, it would drop your federal tax obligation by $2,145. And if you are listening and following this, that would nearly offset the super catch-up contribution. To me, that's like the holy grail of being able to contribute to retirement plans, because the catch-up having to go in as a Roth is creating that tax-free, income for later on in life. And then the HSA is actually offsetting your tax today, but also creating tax-free stream of income for qualified medical expenses later in life. So if you're not following that completely, don't worry, we got you. That's why people call us. They give us a call at 256-937-2010, and they come in and actually sit down and have a discovery session with us so we can kind of go through these types of things to make sure their plan's on track.
Yeah. And when I mentioned this is complimentary, you can even text, if you prefer texting, text the word visit to this number too, 256-937-2010. And thanks for joining us. You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show with Cris Wallace and Graham Bauer, both of WG Financial Group. All right. So we've talked about, contribution limits for this new year, 2026, in our 401ks, 403bs, and 457s. Now I want to get to the IRA contributions for this new year, 2026. Not everyone who's working has a workplace retirement plan. Some people might just want to save more. What should listeners know about IRAs this year, guys?
The main IRA that people are usually looking at outside of work is the Roth IRA.
Okay.
I'm sure anybody that has ever listened to any content about retirement systems in the United States has heard about a Roth IRA at this point.
What is that?
It's a guy's name. It's not an acronym either. It's a guy's name.
Yes, yeah. I forget. It was a senator. I forget his first name, but I think last name Roth. But anyways, it's a great type of savings, retirement savings account that it's great to utilize if you can. Now, the first thing to know here is there has been a raise in the adjusted gross income limit to make a contribution to a Roth IRA rather. So it's up to, I believe, about $242,000 adjusted gross income. You have to be under that threshold in order to be able to make a Roth IRA contribution. So if you do your taxes and you see that you made, $257,000 adjusted gross income, line 11 of your 1040, you can't do a Roth IRA normally. There might be some other options out there, but you can't just contribute money directly to a Roth IRA. So that number has been raised. It tends to go up with inflation every year. It's actually gone up quite a bit the last 3 or 4 years. So for people whose wages haven't increased at the same rate, there might be some people that can do it today that maybe couldn't do it 3 or 4 years ago. So if you filed taxes in 2020 and you made too much to do a Roth and you were kind of near the threshold or just under it, maybe take a look at it again and just kind of see if you might be eligible now.
We see a lot of people missing that opportunity.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's something our report card picks up that we, when we're sitting down with people and going over their situation, we see this as a missed opportunity. And just to be clear here, we're talking about outside Roth IRAs. And the reason I bring that up, because to us, we're like, okay, we know that. But there are a lot of times that I've sat down, I know you've sat down with people and you start talking Roth, and inside the prospect or client's head, Roth 401k, Roth IRA runs together in their brain. And they said, they'll say, well, I'm already doing Roth inside the 401k. And we'll say, but you have the ability to also do Roth outside in a separate outside IRA. So just to be clear here, what Graham is referring to right now is outside Roth IRA and traditional IRA contribution limits.
Yes. And one thing too, to make really clear about Roth, because I think that people get confused about this a little bit too. The question that will contributing to a Roth IRA make me pay more in taxes? And the answer is no. And not unless you were going to have contributed to a traditional IRA instead, which most people are not, especially if you have an employer plan. So if you are somebody that you have, let's say you got $50,000 sitting in your bank, $30,000, $20,000, and it's more than you need for your emergency fund, you want to make a Roth IRA contribution, that is not going to cost you a dime more in taxes to do that than, unless you were maybe planning on making a traditional contribution, which most people are not eligible to do and not doing anyways.
Because you were already taxed when it came out of your paycheck and landed in your checking or savings account.
Wow.
It's post-tax money. So whether, whether your employer pays you and it goes and sits in your bank account, or they pay you and you can put it in your Roth IRA, does not change your tax situation.
I would also argue that it saves a little bit of tax to do it. And I'll explain what I mean by that. If you've got $8,000 sitting in your savings account that you could be contributing to, say, actually it's $8,600 is the full amount for catch-up. You'll go through that here in just a second. Sitting in a savings account, making 3% interest, it's going to pay you roughly $258 per year for that interest at 3%. And with that, if you're in the 22% tax bracket, you're going to get taxed at 22% on that interest. And that's basically $57. And I'm rounding up a little bit there. So by moving that $8,600 over to a Roth IRA, it actually saves you a little bit of money in federal tax. And then all of the growth, obviously, from there forward is considered tax-free moving forward after you meet those qualifications. So I just wanted to point that out. Actually, it's a little bit of a savings to actually do it.
It is for most people. And right now, these next 4 months, if you haven't been doing it, especially if you're married, especially if you're over 50, it's a great time to do it. I mean, we see a lot of people that come in and they're cash heavy. And I think that's really easy for that to happen just because, again, once you get towards those peak earning years, maybe you're maxing out your 401k or you're getting close to it and your house is almost paid for or it is paid for. And you kind of just have more money than you really need on a monthly basis. And it just slowly accumulates. And you're like, hey, well, 30 looks nicer in my bank than 20 did. And 40 looks better than 30 and 50 looks better than 40. And it just kind of keeps going.
Right.
And you get to the point where, that might have really ballooned. Well, right now, between now and April, if you're eligible for 25 and 26, you could do like 33,000 between you and your spouse with catch up for 16,000 if you're over 50 and married, 8,000 each for 25, and then 8,600 each for 2026. So, you could push a lot of money into Roth status, if you do it before your tax filing deadline here in April.
So what you're saying is if you make the 2025 contribution and the 26 together, you can push a whole lot of money in there. Agreed.
Yeah, you can push a ton of money in there. So, if you're sitting on 75 and you're like, I probably only need 30 for my emergency fund, make some contributions. It'll help you out. And I mean, if you're pushing that much in, that's probably, if you have a decent interest rate, 3-4%, it's a decent bit of interest you're saving yourself too, that's flowing through to your tax return right now that wouldn't be.
Right. Again, our report card kind of picks that stuff up and we kind of go over with people. So that's awesome. Good stuff there.
Can you explain who's going to benefit the most with those IRA contributions?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'll take that for a second. Graham notes here, moving the money from your savings into a Roth, that puts the money in a tax-free position moving forward. But there are people that are in a bracket where they're trying to reduce today's tax and they want to do a traditional IRA contribution so they get the tax deduction today. I think it really depends on the individual's or family's specific situation. I'll give you some I don't really like rules of thumb, but they're there as rules of thumb for us to kind of look at. So we're advocates of, let's take, for example, Graham. He's on the younger side. And, our, belief is that a younger person, especially if they're in a low income bracket, should be doing Roth IRA contributions. I would even argue that if you're even in the 22 or 24 bracket, marginal wise, that you should still be looking at Roth as a young individual because you have much longer for the Roth money to compound. And our math tells us that the compounding of those tax-free dollars over time outweigh the taxes that you're actually paying today and that you might pay in the future. I did run into a situation with a current individual that we're working with today. He asked me a question on whether or not he should do Roth versus traditional. So we went through the exercise of where are you at in the marginal tax brackets? Well, turns out he's in the lower 22 bracket at this point. So we made the determination that it was probably better for him to do Roth IRA versus traditional IRA. So I say all of that to say this. Again, it depends. It really depends on your specific situation, where you are in the brackets, what your income look like. How much pre-tax money do you already have saved? That makes a difference as well. and some of the calculations that we do and the decisions that we're making with families that we're working with. So that's who benefits, Louann. It depends.
I like that, though. It's okay. It depends. Yeah. So would it be more important for pre-retirees to make the IRA contributions or even retirees that are still working part-time?
Yeah, I think it depends there again, not to, say it depends, but it depends. I will say if you're working part-time, that still gives you the avenue, depending on the amount of money that you're generating part-time, to be able to make those contributions. So obviously, if you're still working part-time and you can make a Roth or traditional contribution, by all means, you should be looking at doing that.
All right. Let's get into HSAs. You guys brought those up a minute ago. Okay.
We love those.
Yeah, you love them and you use them as a retirement planning tool. A lot of times I think we only think of HSAs as healthcare accounts, but you guys believe they're more than that, right? Much more than that.
We do. They're a healthcare tool. They're a tax reduction strategy tool. They're, now and in the future, we do not sell them. So this is not a sellable type of a product, but the way that I use mine is I'm using it today to reduce my tax today because it's what we would call a reduction to gross income or an above the line deduction. And what that does is that brings down the amount of taxable money that I pay in taxes. So I used the example earlier, someone that is maxing out an HSA at $97.50, they're over the age of 55 and they're maxing that out in a family HSA at $97.50 a year. That's a reduction in federal tax by $21.45 a year. So they're a very powerful tax tool. The way that I use mine, though, is I actually don't spend mine. The beautiful thing about an HSA is those balances can continue to roll over every single year. Unlike the cousin to the HSA, the FSA, you have to spend it by the end of the year. The HSA, you can continue to roll those balances over and the growth continues to compound. You can invest in securities while you're in the HSA. So for example, I keep 1 year of deductible in cash and then I invest all the rest of it. And I invest it aggressively because I don't intend to use it.
Oh, yeah.
Because what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to grow that HSA balance large by the time that I retire so that when I retire, I can use that to fund long-term care. I can use that to fund long-term care premiums. I can use it to buy glasses. I can use it for dental work.
Yeah.
There's a big, long, liberal list on the IRS website of what you can actually use an HSA for. So again, it reduces my taxes today. And then when I'm in retirement, I'm going to be able to pull out of that HSA for qualified medical expenses tax-free, which reduces my taxes in retirement. So I think they're a great planning tool. Again, this is not something that we sell, but we talk about this and our report card picks this up as well. And we, make the recommendation to families to take a look at it because it's not right for everybody, but I feel like it's right for a lot of people. The key thing here to note is that you have to have a high deductible health plan in order to have an HSA. That's the key thing. I think the one thing that stops people from using the HSA is the words high deductible.
Yeah.
The words high oh, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. Right. But once you get used to it, and it took me a little while to get used to it, and you see the money that you're putting in there that's reducing your taxes today, and now all of a sudden you've got another retirement bucket of money, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And I know that we're running out of time here at the first half of the show. So if you're catching this on the way to church, you can hop out to Apple or Spotify and catch the whole episode. And you can also call to set up a discovery session. You can do that by calling 256-937-2010. Again, the number is 256-937-2010.
Planning for retirement often sparks big questions, like how to make your savings last or what steps you should take next. Instead of stressing, why not get clear direction with a personalized meeting? Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Connect with Cris Wallace and discover the next chapter of your financial story.
Are you a federal employee feeling pressure from the early retirement offers like VERA, VSIP, or the Deferred Resignation Program? Recent government initiatives have introduced significant changes to federal retirement programs, making employees feel pressured to consider early retirement or face potential layoffs. At WG Financial Group, we help guide federal employees through these uncertain times. Our team understands the complex federal retirement systems and can help you make informed decisions. Call 256-937-2010 to schedule your complimentary discovery session with us today. We'll help you assess your options and create a personalized retirement plan to help you feel more confident. Visit WGFinancialGroup.com or call 256-937-2010 to book your session. Firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
When headlines sound dramatic and markets appear restless, having a plan in place matters. Joining forces with Cris Wallace could offer fresh perspectives on how to adapt your approach while staying focused on long-term goals. Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's text VISIT to 256-937-2010. Explore how steady guidance makes a difference.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Rite Retirement Show with Cris Wallace and Graham Bauer. Both are certified financial planners, financial advisors at WG Financial Group, and Cris is president there. And we're just so happy you're spending part of your day with us today. We are going over just very important things that you should do here at the beginning of the year. We're starting a new year, 2026. So far, we've covered contribution limits for your 401ks, 403bs, 457s, and talked about IRA contributions, and then the health savings account. Really exciting information there used as a retirement planning tool. But now let's get into just the advantage of starting early in the year. So as far as savings go, so a lot of people wait until later in the year for some reason to think about savings. Why does starting now really matter?
I think that this is actually something I've been thinking about a little bit this year, more than normal, because, I ran into some thread or something on social media. I forget exactly where it was, but people talking about whether or not you should, invest your Roth IRA, just max it out day one, or if you should dollar cost average throughout the year, make contributions from each paycheck. Obviously, that assumes you have the ability, have the cash on hand to max it out day one. But, a lot of studies have shown over time, and it's kind of what we preach on the show, that time in the market does generally beat time in the market. Now, I'm a big proponent of dollar cost averaging.
Say that slower.
Time in the market.
Time in the market beats timing the market.
Timing the market. Okay.
Yes.
Timing.
Gotcha. I want to think I heard. I want to say I heard you right. Yep.
It almost sounded the same. Time in. Yeah.
That's why I asked him to say it again.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not gonna mess that up. So yeah, as you're looking at that, I mean, if you have the ability to, day one, January 1st, that it really is the best time to start saving as much as you can, as early as you can, because of course, like we've talked about so many times, over time, just the more time you have money invested, the likelihood is it is going to go up long term. So if you're someone who's a little bit more skittish, I'll be honest with myself, I feel like I generally have a slightly lower tolerance for risk. Now, I invest aggressively because I'm young and I have a long time, and I know that that's what I should do. But to me, sometimes it feels better to, do the dollar cost averaging route of I'm going to buy in at a lot of different prices. But again, the studies show over time, you're going to do better investing as early and as often as you can. So I think that it is really important to, be thinking about that if you're able to early in the year. Also, on the 401k side of things, some 401k plans, I'm looking at you federal employees, but there's other ones as well. You have to stretch your contributions out to basically, make them equally over all periods to get the full match. So if, you max out your 401k too early into the year, or you don't think about it for the first half of the year and aren't contributing anything, and then you start the second half, for some plans, you're not going to get the full match. So if your employer matches 5% and you aren't doing anything in your 401k and in June you decide to start, you may only get half of that for the back half of the year. So that's something to be aware of as well. But just overall, I think early in the year, it's a great time to take inventory. We were closed here at the office New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and I was off of work from doing other people's finances, but I was kind of spending the whole day doing my own. So it's a good time to take a look at that and plan for the year ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about timing the market. And I think there are people listening to the show that I'm just going to wait for the next correction. I'm just sitting back waiting for the next correction. And I just always like, even today, like where the market is, all-time highs, today's high is next year's low, is kind of the saying that I've heard many, many times. And, just sitting in cash, waiting on the dip or trying to buy the dip long term, as you talked about, Graham, doesn't make a lot of sense from a mathematical perspective and a research perspective. So it's best just to kind of get in, stay in, stick to the plan and go long term with it for sure. But I agree with what you said about starting early. I love what you talked about there with the TSP matching, how important it is to make sure that you spread those contributions out evenly across the year to make sure that you get the full match in the TSP. And it's not just the TSP. There are other retirement plans that also work the same way. And I think that's important as well, because that's free money. You don't want to leave it on the table, but you can leave it on the table if you don't do things properly in terms of your contribution. So love it.
Is there a downside then? I mean, you kind of talked about it, about waiting until the end of the year.
Right. Well, obviously the match in some cases is an issue. And the thing with like company sponsored retirement plans like 401ks, TSPs, those have to come payroll deduct. So those contributions have to come out of your paycheck, because I've been asked before by a lot of people throughout the 20 years that I've been doing this, can I write a check to my 401k? You can't. So waiting until the end of the year and not maxing out the contribution can create a scenario where you're like, I need to get more into my 401k, but I can't because I also need to buy groceries. And so you have to fight that battle. I think just coming up with a plan, understanding what you can put into those plans and trying to stick with that throughout the year is the best way to do it.
And then how does this impact someone, who's like 5-10 years from retirement?
Well, you need an assessment, whether it's us or some other financial professional. We have 5 certified financial planners on our team. I think it's important to start looking at your retirement 5 to 10 years out to figure out where you're at, what kind of contributions you really need to make to hit the targets you're trying to hit, so that you can actually retire, support the lifestyle that you're looking to support. So waiting is, I don't know, it's risky in some cases, but I don't know, as humans, we tend to procrastinate in a lot of ways. And so, so if you're a procrastinator, call us. We'll help you out. We'll help you get off that procrastination seat a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. So now let's get to just aligning our contributions with a bigger strategy. So obviously saving money is good, but when you save money like many people do without a strategy, that can be risky. So talk about that. Why does alignment matter?
Yeah, it matters because at the end of the day, we're trying, all of us, myself, Graham, my kids, we're all trying to get to that glorious day of retiring and leaving our employer and, going off into the retirement land, if you will. So your contribution decisions, they really tie directly to that big picture. So what are your income needs? What are the tax needs that you're going to have to be, or going to be likely to be faced with in retirement? Healthcare decisions. We talked about an HSA. Should we be creating an HSA bucket for healthcare and retirement? Those types of things. You need to think about your contributions today and the impact that they're going to have 5-10 years down the road. Shoot, in Graham's case, 25-30 years down the road. You need to think about that today and make sure that the contributions and the way that you're contributing to retirement plans today do aligned with that bigger picture strategy, both from an income need, a tax planning need, a healthcare need, and really to support the overall lifestyle that you're looking to live in retirement.
Yeah, I think one thing that I say a lot to people is I think that your savings, whether that's your bank account, whether that's your IRA, your 401k, your savings should all have a purpose. And when you know what the purpose is for the money, it makes it a little bit easier to plan for what do you actually do with the money? Do you invest it? How do you invest it? One of my friends the other day sent me a text and he was like, hey, I'm thinking about trying to take like a bigger vacation next year. Where should I like invest some of that money this year to, maybe make a little more on it? And I knew immediately he was talking about actually investing the money. And I was like, hey, not your financial advisor, but if you're me, I would just put that in a nice, money market, high yielding account, get 3 or 4% on it because you're going to need that money next year to go on a trip.
Right.
And if the market tanks this year, which, I don't know, I don't think it will, but it could, you might not be going on that trip anymore. So you got to know what the purpose is for money. And that makes it, I think that makes it a lot easier when you explain it to people that way to say, hey, maybe you're nervous to invest, take something like we were talking about earlier, taking some money out of a savings account, putting it in a Roth IRA. And you say, okay, you are 56 years old right now. You're planning on retiring at 65, moving $8,000 over. Are you really going to touch that $8,000 in the next 9 years, in the next 5 years, 3 years, in the next maybe 10 or 15 years? If the answer is probably no, then there's not nearly as much to be nervous about as there is if you were saying, hey, that $100,000 I have in savings, I'm going to do a big home renovation in a year and a half, and I need that money to pay cash. I don't want to take out loans, yada, yada, yada. Then at that point, you might leave it alone. But I think that, having a purpose to what you're doing and knowing, why am I putting money in these accounts? What is their purpose? Can help alleviate some fears about risk and also just give you a better understanding of, why your finances are the way that they are. Obviously, our goal is to take care of this for people. If someone is using us as their planner, we want to help take the burden of a lot of that off of people's shoulders, but we also want them to understand, why we're doing what we're doing. And we'd hope that, if a client was asked by somebody else, hey, why do you have this type of account? They wouldn't be like, I have no idea. Someone just told me to set it up.
Yeah.
But they would actually have some kind of understanding of, what the purpose of that is for, even if they don't, get all the little nuances and details. And
which we've heard that before.
Yeah.
I don't know. They just told me to set it up. Well, what is this? What's the purpose? I don't know.
Do you see that a lot? People maxing out their accounts without knowing why?
Oh, well, not just the maxing. The maxing is, that's kind of a given. We don't really see any situation why they would question that or not understand that. I think more so the type of account or the type of investment we've heard before is we'll look at the statement and go, okay, well, why did we do this? And they're like, I don't know. They just told me to do it.
Oh,
so,
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like what you said, Grant. Purpose is important. So understanding obviously the purpose of your retirement, the purpose of the money and what's it going to do. And the time horizon is huge. I mean, absolutely huge, because we've seen situations where, people have a chunk of money that they're not going to spend for many, many years. And matter of fact, they may never spend it. It'll be inheritance money. And it's like, okay, we can do something a little bit better than what you're trying to do there. So time horizon matters. And I think that's a good point there for sure.
What changes when there's an actual income plan behind it? That's what you guys do.
We do. I think there's a when you're able to create kind of an income plan, you're able to show that to the client. It creates a sense of almost like you're working today and you've got your paycheck coming in. So there's comfort there because there's income coming in. And so I think when you create an income plan for an individual or a family, and they can see it, they see the dollars flowing out of it, they can look, smell, and touch it in their bank account, so to speak. There's just a sense of, comfort there, I guess, knowing that the money's coming in on a regular basis, because that's how we feel today when we're getting paid from our jobs.
Yeah, that's true. So speaking of emotions, okay, let's get into just, more on the psychological relief of having a plan. You guys, this is what you do. You make sure people have a plan and make them feel confident about their retirement. So talk about, what having a plan does to them mentally.
Well, again, I think confidence is huge. And knowing, going into an uncertain part of life, which retirement is an uncertain part of life. I mean, you might know that you have this account and that account and Social Security, maybe you got a pension, but it is an uncertain part of life. Most people have probably never done it before. And I think confidence is key. So when you've planned, when you have a plan, when you know, okay, my last day is Friday, but I know what's going to happen after that. I know what I need to do. I've already prepped and gotten this and that ready ahead of time. I know where my income's going to be coming from. I know how I'm invested. I know, that maybe I'm not too risky here. I know maybe I am chasing a little bit more growth because not really going to touch this money for a while. Whatever your case is, it is just good to have confidence in your strategy, to know what your strategy is. I think that just makes people feel a lot better going into retirement and throughout retirement. We've seen a lot of the times people come into the office and they have been I would say if I were in their position, I would feel pretty confident that I could retire. At least that's, what I might be thinking in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would actually feel, but they don't feel that way. They come in and they're like, I don't feel like I can ever retire. I'm nervous about doing this. And, they've saved well. They, have worked for a long time and, they got no debt and they've done a great job saving. But that isn't enough for most people to just know I have money. That is not necessarily enough to feel like your spouse is going to be okay if you pass away and you're going to have enough to make it and you're not going to outlive your money if you live into your 80s and 90s. So I think it's just confidence. I keep going back to that, but that really is the key component of having a plan. And that's what we do with, our Rite process and the overall long-term look that we have on retirement planning.
Yeah, I think it takes people a little while to get into what I call that retirement rhythm. So there's a psychological aspect, and I'm terrified of heights, as many of you know. And I think of it like jumping out of an airplane, and you're just kind of hoping the parachute opens. I think that's the way people feel. That's the way I would feel. I would never jump out of. You couldn't pay me enough to jump out of a good flying airplane. Why would you do that? It's too much risk there, in my opinion. But that's how people, I think, kind of feel that way. They're going to jump out of the airplane, hope the parachute opens. And, just because they have money or they haven't, a lot of people, it's not enough for them to feel comfortable. So as they go into retirement, I know that there are several families that we work with where we'll meet with them a lot more early on to kind of help them, almost like counseling to some degree, and also kind of holding hands and saying, hey, it's going to be okay. Let's take another step. Let's, keep walking. We're going to walk through retirement with you because it is a big psychological, it's a big psychological battle that I think a lot of people deal with. But having a plan in place, as Graham kind of notes here, it increases that confidence, to be able to take that next step, to be able to know that it's going to be okay, that I can actually pull out of an account that I've been taught to save in all my life. And now it is okay to take money out of that account, because that's why I was putting that money there for the last 30 to 40 years, is so that I can retire and take money out. I think having that plan helps reduce anxiety as well.
Sure.
And really gives you a sense of control. When you have a plan built for your retirement, you know what the potential returns are going to be. You know what the potential loss exposures are going to be. You know what your income picture is going to look like. And there's a lot of people, Louann, that we work with, honestly, they don't want to deal with like looking at the accounts day in and day out. Yeah. And even myself personally, I literally don't look at my accounts. It's very rare in case in the event I have to go in and look at it. It's the only time that I look at it, but I don't even look at it. I contribute to my 401k annually. I max it out. I max out the HSA. I can't do an IRA. But I just don't look at them. I don't know. The only time I really know how much money I have is if I'm purchasing something. If like going to build a house or something along those lines. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I have to prove assets or whatever. Then I go in and go, oh, wow, I didn't know I had that. Well, that's typically how a lot of families that we work with, they kind of just entrust us to be able to walk that journey with them. Yeah. And their retirement situation consists of community with others, maybe some church volunteering. We're a partner in their retirement, and our job for them is to make sure that they don't run out of money, make sure that they stay invested the way that they're comfortable with. That's our role in their retirement, and they just kind of let us handle that. And I think it helps. I think people know this as well. I don't personally manage my IRA. I know it sounds weird. You're a financial advisor. What? Well, ask a stylist if she cuts her own hair.
Right, you can't.
It would be hard. I mean, an advisor can manage his own money. And don't mistake what I'm saying. I do have what I call Chris's sandbox that I use for a little bit of my own personal investing, but also use as my charitable giving account as well. But the big bulk of my money is professionally managed by somebody else. Why? Because I have an emotional attachment to money like other people, very good, and I can make bad decisions just like other people. So I, as a financial advisor, have an emotional attachment to the money, and it can cause me problems. And just on that topic, I'll just kind of stay on that. I do think, and I've seen this in the industry, just talking with other advisors at conferences and things that I attend and trainings. I think advisors push their bias on some of their clients indirectly.
Oh my!
Not necessarily I think sometimes it happens and they don't know.
Right.
And it could be political bias. Oh, I believe this.
They're excited about something. Yeah, they believe something.
Right. Or they're afraid of something.
Oh, we're afraid.
They're afraid of something.
Yeah.
And they're so afraid that it bleeds out into the meeting room and it bleeds out into the people that you're meeting with. So I think at our office, one of the things we teach at the office is to be positive and be positive about the plan and not necessarily have such a strong bias in one way or the other that it clouds what you should be doing from a planning perspective for that client.
Yeah. Such a good point. I do love how when you put a plan together, it will help your clients have clarity and it changes them.
It's big. Clarity's big.
Yeah, yeah. What about couples? Does this help couples get on the same page when you have a plan?
Oh, it does for sure. I mean, I think I've seen this before, and I think as an advisor, you have to be really, really careful. So in a meeting, we never judge. So it's a judgment-free zone when somebody comes in. But I've seen this before where I can tell, because I've done enough meetings to know right now. I'm like full-blown almost financial counselor because I've sat with a lot of husbands and wives. I can sense when the wife doesn't fully trust what the husband is currently doing. Yeah. And sometimes they're there because of her. They're there because, hey, let's go talk to a financial advisor because I need confidence. You know what you're doing.
That what you're doing is okay.
Well, right. And because it's different, like Graham said, hopefully you only do it once.
Yeah.
Most people are only going to do it once. You want to make sure you do it right. And there's things in retirement that are just different. They're almost reverse of what you're doing currently. And it's reverse not only from a money and a tax perspective, it's reverse in thinking as well. You have to change your mindset. There's a psychological shift. So yeah, I think it helps couples out. That's the long-winded way to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think anybody who's married knows that, sometimes your spouse might be like, hey, well, we don't need to go to a mechanic for that. I'll just whip out the toolbox and do it. And maybe they can for some things for sure.
Right.
But then, when it comes time to put a new engine in or a new transmission or something like that, you might, maybe let's get a second opinion before we start, before we start doing that there's a lot of people out there, like Cris alluded to, occasionally you'll be sitting in a meeting and you can kind of tell that one spouse, even without saying it, is kind of thinking, hey, they kind of tinker around with this. I think they know what they're talking about, but we just really wanted to talk to someone who really knows what they're talking about and make sure, before we pull the trigger on a big decision. So I think it's good for, it's definitely good for some marriages. I think people walk out. They don't always walk out happier with each other than when they came in, but our goal is generally to, try to provide that clarity, not to say you're doing a terrible job or anything like that, but to just say, hey, there might be some cleanup items here. These might be some things that you're doing really well, see what areas we can help.
Yeah, I think also, Graham, too, is coming into the room is doing it. We're doing it from a non-biased standpoint.
Yeah.
We don't have a bias either way for them. We want them to be successful, both of them. And we're talking about, sometimes we can see when the wife doesn't fully trust the husband. That happens in my house all the time, especially if like something is broken at the house. And I'm just like, hey, I'll fix this. And Jen's like, are you sure? Can we just call a repairman? No, honey, I got this. Can we just call a repairman?
Oh my goodness.
No, I can do it. I got YouTube right here. And she's like calling her dad, like, what do we do?
This right?
Exactly. All right. And the last thing I'll say on this psychological thing here is we all, and again, I talked about mine earlier, the emotional money thing and all of that. We all have blind spots. Just like when you're driving in a car, they'll talk about blind spots in a car. We have them with our financial and retirement planning. Everybody listening to the show, we have blind spots that we cannot see. And I think that is the value of working with a financial professional is they can help you recognize those blind spots that you didn't even see. And I could recall some stories just from the past 24 hours where, I've met with people and said, have you looked at it this way? And they're like, no, I've never considered that before. I'll give you, this is not a blind spot, but I met with somebody yesterday whom I sat down with, and they recently are widowed. They're 61 years old, and they're getting married in a month on Valentine's Day. So congratulations to them. But one of the things that he didn't realize he could do was he could claim off his deceased spouse Social Security and allow his to defer, get larger, which protects his future fiance or future wife, which is about to be his wife in about a month. That's not necessarily a blind spot, but that was something when we had this conversation, his jaw was kind of, I almost had to pick it off the table. He said, nope, nobody's ever told me that before. Oh. And I said, well, that's why I ask a lot of questions. I know some of my questions may be a little bit invasive and a little bit intrusive, but in a very professional way, of course. But I'm just trying to dig and make sure there's no avenues that we can look at when we're sitting down with families.
I love that. Real quick, in the amount of time left, I guess I'll go to the employer matches, okay? Because there's a lot of missed opportunities here. And a lot of workers are missing out on their employer match. I think this is kind of surprising.
It absolutely is. And I've talked to people throughout the years, as you kind of noted, we're nearing the end of the show here. So I'll kind of wrap this up here in a second. But I have seen and spoken with people who basically take their 401k, and the way that they look at their 401k is they look at it as part of their employer. And it's the retirement plan for that employer. But let's say they don't like their employer and they're like, I'm not putting money in that 401k because it's my employer whom I hate. You're missing opportunity there. Yeah. You're missing free money. So at the bare minimum, do enough in your company sponsored plan to at least take advantage of the free match that's there. Also understand with your retirement plan, the structure like Graham spoke about earlier, where you have to, make sure your contributions are spread out evenly throughout the year in order to get the full match and the TSP. Well, a lot of 401k plans are like that as well. So make sure that you're doing that as you're kind of preparing for retirement. And please, by all means, take advantage of that free match. Louann, I'll kind of talk about a few things here as I go to wrap up. Yeah. So obviously, our core market that we work with is the pre-retiree retirees, somebody's around 53, 54 years old, maybe a little bit younger, who's been saving for retirement, looking for someone to work with them in retirement and basically kind of take that responsibility so they don't have to focus on that, so they can focus on their family. That's what we do at the office. We do a discovery session. It's easy peasy. You call in, give us your information. We'll set the appointment with you. We'll give you an email with things to bring to the meeting to make the meeting very efficient. And we call that the discovery session. We generate a Rite Retirement report card that picks up a lot of things that you could be doing that maybe you're not doing, or some things you're doing really well. We'll tell you that also. We have 5 certified financial planners on staff. So we got quite a bit of knowledge in the building. We get a good service team that works with our current clients. And a lot of people say this, well, what services do you offer? Well, we offer ways to look at Social Security maximization. I just gave you an example of one just a few minutes ago. We do investment management. We do we look at your Medicare situation, take a look at the IRMA limits, where you are. We look at investment tax planning, Roth conversion strategies. And by the way, I heard the other day on a TV show that, Roth conversion, you got to be doing it. It's not right for everybody. It is very individual, family specific, and there's other ways to save on taxes than just Roth converting. So I don't want that to be like the end all be all, but we do a whole, holistic look at, and I don't really like the word holistic, but that's what it is. We look at the entire retirement picture and talk about areas where you can improve. And then we generate that report card, go over all of that in the second meeting, tell you how we fit into your retirement plan moving forward, all that good stuff. So if you're at the first of the year, you're thinking about doing this and you've been procrastinating, give us a call, 256-937-2010. You'll set up that discovery session. Our team will be happy to sit down with you, go over a plan with you to make sure that you can stay retired and make it all the way through without running out of money. 256-937-2010. That is all for the show. Louann, it is really good to be back. I know the people that are avid listeners are glad to be back as well. Yeah. Hope everybody has an awesome and blessed week. And remember to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart.
Please remember, converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. An increase in taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Graham Bauer holds the enrolled agent designation, but is not currently offering tax preparation services. Neither the firm nor its agents may give tax advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any purchasing decisions.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business WG Insurance Services. WG Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by WG Insurance Services are not subject to investment advisory requirements. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. WG Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial. This radio show is a paid placement.